it takes so many people to put on a production like this, backstage, on stage, in the booth, everybody, and everybody has to bring their A game, to make it work.
When Jesus had taken the wine, he said,
"It is finished."
and bowing his head,
Once the audience is settled, and hopefully they already have a sense that this is going to be a different sort of concert experience for them, the piece starts with a processional, which we are adding to the beginning of the written piece, and that helps to establish the meditative tone of the piece. It's movement. It's also the audience gets a little bit of an initial intro. They get to see everyone, and I'm trying to bring everyone in as an ensemble. So they're all coming in together, they're all, on the same level, and then they move to their various places and get themselves dressed and help each other dress, and that's a little ritual as well. And then, when everyone is ready, then Martin starts the piece.
After the initial salvo, the big opening with the chorus, which just goes into the story, and then you are immersed in the same musical material for next 16 minutes with the subtlest of changes, and it sort of brings you to this meditative state of mind.
And the hall really resonates. With a piece like this, it's a lot of momentum when the evangelists are singing, because we're telling a story. We're not really supposed to be expressive necessarily with what we're singing, because we want the story to be clear, and the evangelist normally would be a cantor, just singing a cappella, or maybe with an organ accompaniment in other passion settings. So it's this is different when you have that kind of space, and you have that a cappella space, that all of a sudden another part will drop out, and it totally changes the feeling.
There's something about his vocal work that it's I don't know, it's more profound, more touching, piercing, shall I say? Yeah.
All of the attention in this piece goes strictly to the text, and the music is strictly being used to serve that text.
The meditation is left to the audience with the sound world that Parrot creates, because of how slow the harmonies move and the interplay between the characters and all the pauses between what things are said. So there's a little bit more room for you to let things come in, react before you're presented with some new material or a new scene, or maybe even a harmonic shift.
Arvo Pärt's PASSIO is the Latin text of the Gospel of John. It's probably one of the most central texts in Christian faith. I mean, the passions, the stories of the sufferings of Christ, are the earliest part of the gospel tradition that were actually put into narrative form.
You're invited to sort of simmer in this tonal world where this story is being told. And you sit there for an hour, and all of this drama happens within that same world. It becomes an incredible challenge, and I think also for Maestro, to say, how do we say the exact same thing musically when we're saying entirely different things dramatically?
This piece presents, it's kind of a conundrum how to conduct it, because it should have a flow, but it's in detail it's a never-ending chain of changing meters, so I have to be always on a lookout. I feel like maybe if you ski, when you're just doing these gentle, you're giving these gentle inputs, and you just move the mass in the right direction. I'm not grabbing everyone by their throat, and it's all very very organic. It's a lot of work for the conductor, but in a way, I want to be invisible. I want to just sort of dissipate and let them bring the magic.
Crucifixion, the way Jesus died, was not a Jewish punishment. It was the punishment of Rome for political insurrectionists, rebels. And that's how Jesus, the historical Jesus, was killed. He was killed by Rome as a rebel. That fact, which is hard and fast, should tell you a lot of stuff about the historical Jesus, despite whatever retellings might occur later in the Christian tradition. Whatever he preached, it was clear that Romans saw it as a political threat.
It's a story of this colossal misunderstanding on one hand. It's a very human story of an individual who gets kind of caught in the middle of these events, and it's also a story of Pilate as in sort of an unwilling executioner. He did not, at least according to St. John, he was dragged into it, right?
He's going to be whipped, he's going to be slapped, he's going to be crucified, he's going to be denied. And Pilate's going to struggle with, am I doing the right thing? How can I convince these people he's done nothing? And you're just in that.
It's a story of the power of crowds that can turn so terrible and terrifying. So I think there is a very human aspect to the character of Jesus as well, and to all these participants. So I'm just fascinated by the story, and this particular gospel of the four, to me, is the most dramatic one. I think that's why it's also been portrayed in music so much. It gives you a lot of good material, a lot of good drama to work with.
Peric's Passio is gorgeous. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But it expresses this idea that somehow the sufferings of Jesus are our sufferings, and that there's hope in that, despite all of the horrible stuff that we have to go through, and despite loss and disappointment and abandonment, and despite horror, there's hope. And that's why pieces like this are so important. And it's why the great composers come back to them again and again.
Unfortunately, we don't change. There are certain things that we seem to have a really hard time learning, and by experiencing this parables, thinking about all these things past, maybe we avoid some of the mistakes that we've been repeating throughout the human history. One can only hope, but that's our, that's basically the role of the arts, is to to remind you of our common humanity, and also hopefully sort of steer you towards better outcomes in the future in our small and humble and harmonious ways. So this is where Jesus says it's finito, it's done, and then you have the evangelist just giving us the last line, and his spirit left the body. Instead you get a long silence before the very final